This information is for educational purposes only and is not intended for medical advice.
Welcome to Enhancing the Human. I'm Dr. Jena, a renowned expert in the field of human enhancement. I've spent decades of my life exploring all aspects of human health, which has allowed me to take people from extreme injury and disability to peak athletic performance. I use cutting-edge advancements, breakthrough technologies, and scientific insights to push the boundaries of human capabilities. The human body is able to do so much more than you think. Let's start enhancing the human. Hello and welcome to Enhancing the Human podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Jena. Today's very exciting for me because I have one of my good friends, Jessie O'Hara. She is one of the best Pilates instructors in the world. She focuses on posture, breath work, and isolated movements that are focused on quality versus quantity. And by controlling these variables, she's able to change people's lives. She explains her philosophy and how she's gotten to where she is now. And it's pretty impressive, and I can't wait to share it with you guys. Let's get to it. We appreciate you being here today. And the reason why I wanted you on our show is just because you have so much to bring to not only Pilates, but I tell everyone how emotionally intelligent you are. And that to me is life-changing for the people involved because you don't lead with your ego. So besides Pilates, you change minds, you make people feel safe, and you help them reach their better selves. So we're going to talk about Pilates, but I just want to introduce you as so much more than just what you do for a living. Thank you again for being here. And tell me just a little bit about how you got into Pilates, how you got into health and wellness, and just what your overall philosophy is and what you've developed over time.
Yes, so I always was a fitness girl. Growing up, I did ballet. After high school, I transitioned to doing yoga. So I always lean towards a more eccentric type of workout.
And so people know eccentric is control on the way down. So it's not just, going quickly through movements. It's the controlled descent, just so people understand. Because we use terms and we don't realize sometimes people don't know what we're saying.
Yeah, exactly. I was never a CrossFit girl or heavyweight lifting girl. I would take a circuit training class here and there, but I always liked something that was more about lengthening, stretching, controlling the body, not using momentum. Yes. So I found Pilates whenever I moved to LA, fell in love with it, completely decided to switch my career path.
So you said lengthening. How did you know what lengthening was? Because not a lot of people know what lengthening is. Just it's holding yourself in a posture and being able to continue and complete the workout program while maintaining that posture versus just loading the spine even in a poor position. So explain a little bit how you even understood your body enough to recognize that.
So when I first moved to LA, I was taking all of the classes that everyone was doing at the time, very high intensity things, lots of momentum, just throwing weights around. And my body started to change, and I'd never seen it look like this before. And I didn't feel good. I felt like I was in good condition, but I was super tight. I would wake up and just be like, oh my God, I need a massage every day. So during that time, I met who became my mentor, and I told her oh, I grew up doing ballet. I've never tried Pilates. And she was like, oh, just come to my studio and try it out. I think you'll like it. And so the first week I went once a week. The next week I went twice a week. And then I just added on until I was going every day.
What did you notice about your body that was different? Because I see it all the time, but people don't realize that either, that your shape actually changes with the loads that you add to the body.
So I'm short, and I felt like I got very stocky, thicker. Also, at the same time, I was going through hormonal issues. My cortisol was through the roof. So I knew I needed to do something where I was incorporating more breath work and slowing everything down.
So good. And that too, how did you, that's why I love you.
Yeah.
You're so emotionally intelligent, but how did you know? Because breath work is one of the foundational pillars of health. But did you just have intuition to know that lengthening felt good and that you had to learn to breathe correctly?
Well, I knew all of the workouts I had done previously in my life, they felt really good. I felt good whenever I walked out of the room. The ones that I had transitioned into, it was hard to get myself to go. I would wake up and be like, "Oh, should I skip today?" With Pilates, I was always excited to go, always excited to add another day. Or if my mentor was like, "Hey, stay a little longer, like let's do some extra work," I was like, "Okay," and it felt good.
Right.
So that was the difference.
How much were you working out when you were doing high intensity stuff? Were you working out every day too?
Yeah, pretty much every day. I mean, I still try to take Sundays off for myself, and I tried to do that back then, but I'm someone I do like to work out. I know you should take time for recovery, but if I'm not doing something active every day, I don't feel like myself. So even on a recovery day, I'm going on a long walk or a long bike ride or, a little
So
stretching
funny.
on the reformer.
I'm like, that's what's funny too. I saw
Yeah.
you the other day bike riding. I'm like, who is this person? Randomly in Manhattan Beach. But
Yeah.
but I want everyone to realize too that your level of fitness is different than most people's. Like your recovery day, the walking is your recovery. Your body, you are so conditioned
Mhm.
that you taking a walk is not it's not fatiguing you. It's not physically exhausting you. So everyone's different.
Exactly.
And you can increase that and improve that threshold.
Exactly, because, sometimes I'm standing and teaching a client, but sometimes there's 2 reformers there, and people will like it if I do it with them, and a lot of people, learn visually, so
Mm.
I can give better cueing, while I'm simultaneously demoing, but, I might work out with 4 clients in a day.
Okay.
So if I'm taking a walk on a Sunday, it's not to that level.
Right. And your body's able to handle that.
Mhm.
And you just felt the difference and you could see it in your body.
Yes, my posture got better because at the time I was working in a hair salon, so I was, leaning over a shampoo bowl, so my shoulders were always tight, my chest was tight, rounding forward, so I immediately started to lift up. Also, I had lower back issues before starting Pilates, and that completely went away and never came back. You work on me, and that's never an issue for me.
We're just maintenance now.
Yeah,
Taking care.
exactly.
Tell a little bit about how we met too, because I just think it's a hilarious story. And about a little bit, it's never about me because I don't want it to be about me. I want it to be about you guys. But I always think it's interesting when I have stories where when we've been through stuff or you had something that was intense for a long time and how it changed. But yeah, explain how we met.
Yes, so I was going on a trip to New York that you happened to also be going on. I was going for fun, you were going for work. So we get to New York, everyone's having a good time. At the time, I didn't know, but I was getting sick. But also, my neck and shoulders were so tight. And I had that situation where I couldn't turn my head at all. So I told everyone in the group, I think I'm going to book a flight and fly back to LA. Like, I do not feel good. I can't move my head. I can't go out to another dinner. It's not going to happen. So your client was like, hey, just let Jena work on you. She'll fix you today. And I was like, I don't know. I don't think that's possible. So I came over, had one appointment. I remember going to stand up thinking, I hope it worked. Maybe I'll feel slightly better. The pain was instantly gone.
It was
So,
so good. You guys were so nice to me because, like it was a group of you guys
mhm.
and we were on my patient's jet and I just got nervous because I didn't know anyone and I didn't know the etiquette of like, are these girls going to be nice to me? Are they going to be mean to me? And so, girls sometimes can be catty, but you guys were all so friendly. And I was like, this is the greatest.
Yeah, I remember we got onto the plane and you kind of sat in the back by yourself. And I was like,
Everyone came
you're
out
with
and you're like,
us.
hey, what's going
Yeah,
on?
I was like,
I'm
so what's your story? Tell me
Right?
about what you do.
And it was like for me to be able to do that for you made me happy because I'm like, you accepted me and it was so fun. And that was 6 years ago now.
Yeah.
How crazy is that?
That's crazy.
Life goes by so fast. It's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
So I'm happy you stayed. And then we had a great rest of the trip.
Yeah, it was such a fun trip.
It was supposed to be 3 days for us, just so you know. You guys
Yeah.
you left. I just remember Blakely was so upset. But yeah, it turned into 2 weeks.
Yeah, my neck was better, but I did get sick and I was like, I have to leave.
Yeah. It's so funny. So funny. So yeah, random things, everything's meant to be because then also I went back to Charleston. I used to live in Charleston and I hadn't been back for a while. And I went back randomly and I was out to eat. And I turned to my right and you're literally sitting there at the table next to me, like 2 tables down.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you kidding me right now?
I know. I remember seeing you there and, being like, hey, it's me. And I was like, she's meant to be in my life.
How crazy is that though? And like I hadn't been back in years.
Yeah.
It had been like a year and a half. And that was the only time I went back, So, and then to be eating at that time, it's just weird how the universe
same
works.
restaurant and everything.
So creepy.
Yeah.
And now 6 years later, here we are. But I love it. And I first did one of your workouts recently.
Oh, you did?
Well, no, just when we trained.
Yeah.
So I joined in on a session with one of your clients just because they're the best people ever. I wish they were here. How entertaining would that be?
Oh, so much fun.
Especially the 7 dogs that they have. I can't.
You wouldn't be able to hear us.
No, at all. Or hear your thoughts, basically. But I went through your workout and it was so much fun. We didn't do the reformer stuff, but we did some training stuff. So you switch in and out of training?
So with some of my clients that want to cross train, I'll do some gym stuff, a little bit of cardio if that's what they need. It's not for every client, but there are some people that, they build a relationship with you and they feel safe and they know that you're not going to injure them or you're going to give them the right push. And so I will transition and do that for whoever needs it.
I love it. Yeah. It's so great. And they love it too. And you see them because they feel safe with you, they get better and better. And you see everyone like shining brighter just because of health and fitness. And I love it. It makes me so happy.
Exactly. Because I feel like if someone really enjoys Pilates, they maybe don't enjoy a gym workout so much. So if they connect with you and they feel safe, it's like, okay, like we can go in there and, it can be Pilates-esque and we can add some other things and, make it more enjoyable. Because when you don't enjoy showing up to your workout, you're never going to stick with it.
No, and it's hard enough to want to do it as is because your body's so resistant to it when you haven't been doing it for a while. So yeah, you definitely want it to be something that you enjoy. And then as far as your philosophy, because I feel like you carry your philosophy over from Pilates to training, keeping the same length in your spine and focusing on, just quality ballerina-esque type movements. And so just explain a little bit about your philosophy, how you got to where you understand, because you look at things big picture and not a lot of people do that. So again, very intuitive, but explain just a little bit about how you got there and how your understanding of Pilates became.
So in Pilates, it's really important that the client develops an awareness of their body, and a lot of other types of workouts, you might go and someone tells you do 15 squats and, run 10 minutes on the treadmill. But in Pilates, we're going to talk about, when you press here, squeeze this muscle. And when you lower down, that's your inhale. When you press out, that's your exhale. You want to be drawing your abs in a certain way. I think it's really important that they're learning to use their body because they use their body all day long. So you can go and do a workout, but if you don't use the benefits of the workout in your everyday life, then you start having issues and they need to come see you.
Yes, exactly. But still, everything that I say, they're like, Jessie tells me that, and it's reinforced across the board. And it's the best thing ever because the carryover to their lifestyle is where you make change. Because you don't want them to need you. Otherwise, they're going to have pain or be out of shape. Like you want to be improving them every time, not just having them rely on you.
Yeah.
And make them understand.
And you have to teach them that awareness so that they don't rewire the bad habits.
Yes.
You're trying.
I mean, they don't understand that either. Their brain thinks that, okay, we did this workout. Now we're going to go do something else. And they just go right into their sloppy posture. But you make them aware of it. And you do a lot of tactile awareness too. So that's huge. So important.
Yeah. So there's a lot of tactile cues, big focus on the posture. What muscle are we using for what movement? Correcting people while they're doing it, saying like, oh, this is what you've done. I see you sitting on your phone after the session. that's kind of how that's translating in your real life.
Yes. And those are hard conversations to have with people. And when they don't, like when they're slopping in their posture, that's their new normal. So when you expose them or try to get them out of that, there's resistance there initially with their nervous system. So people don't realize that it's like a little battle in the beginning. Like people get offended sometimes.
Oh, now that everyone's on their phone, it's, we can sit up straight, work on lengthening and breath the whole session. As soon as they get off, they're like this.
Yep.
And so I've even told people's assistants, I'm like, when you see them sitting like that, tap them, make them sit up. And they're like, I can't do it. It's rude. And I'm like, I'm giving you permission in front of the client to do it. It's going to help them.
It will. And those little cues are life-changing because then over time they start to just do it automatically. The brain, like you said, it rewires and then that's their new normal, the correct way. And then they get better and better versus like this cycle of inflaming joints and having pain.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because clients will say, oh, I hear your voice in my head now whenever I do this.
And you see people react when you're sitting up tall, like they're watching you and they're just like, so it's good. You leave that mark.
Yeah. Or even if they cross train with someone else, they'll tell me, oh, you taught me this about a squat. And so I've been adding it to those cues to my other workout.
Yes.
And it just makes them better all around.
Yes. And you're never threatened by other trainers. That's why, like, one of the reasons why I appreciate you so much. I'm like one of many, but you are so good at your craft that you don't have to be threatened by other people. Because there's so much to go around and you have so much energy that you give people. And the fact that you care to talk to the other trainers, and I've seen you, the cross trainer with me even, we attack things together so that it's reinforced and you see them get better and you'll get referred from other people. There's no like, oh, let's keep this person or let's keep them low so that, they don't leave us. We want people to get better.
Exactly. I think that we all motivate people in our own way. So I may be great at instructing someone in Pilates. Someone else might be better with them in the gym. I just don't believe in, trying to keep everything for yourself. It works better when we work as a team. So I definitely have a roster of trainers that I love sharing clients with. And, we'll talk about what we're each doing in the workout so that, they're not overtraining in one area. And, we end up referring each other different clients. So it works out if you keep yourself small if you're scared to lose one client, but if you work with other people, it adds other people into your circle.
Yes, and you have this network and everyone's coming from a good place where it's motivation through doing what's best and honestly what's best for the person that they're working with. So I love that. And you can see it in what you do. So it's like, I always say light, like you can see how much you shine because you love what you do and you're so good at what you do. And I feel like there's a misconception about Pilates because I listen to feedback from pro athletes and from men and CEOs and anytime because their wives are like, you need to do Pilates. Right away, there's resistance. And I'm like, I'm not doing Pilates. It's for women. And so I want people to know what Pilates truly is because it's just basically owning the neutral spine, owning micro movements, not having to go all over the place because people cannot own neutral as is. So why would you leave neutral? So I feel like just explaining about the micro movements and how Pilates works, the different machines, because you're challenging the body in so many different ways with so many different forces. And it's for everyone. It's not just for women. It's life-changing.
Yes. I definitely have a mix of female and male clients. Most of my male clients have come from my female clients, whether it be a boyfriend, husband, dad. In the beginning, it's always resistance or, like, we just really want you to try it. And they think it's going to be easy. And then it's really hard for them.
Yes. Very hard.
Yeah. It's really hard for them because it's, been geared more towards females before. And so once a guy tries it, normally they realize like, oh, this is the missing link.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because there's fibers that are meant to be strength fibers and power fibers, for the lifting heavy weights. But if you're lifting heavy and you're not working on the quality, the postural fibers, the ones that hold your skeleton where they should be, those muscles should fire first. So if they're not firing and then you're lifting heavy weights, that's when you start to get tight. And how you were saying your body felt like more stocky because the muscles are literally squishing the skeleton. And so that's another thing that's not understood well, because it looks easy, but it's the hardest thing you'll ever do.
Yeah,
It's
so
working something else.
I always tell clients that are resistant in the beginning, if you're only focused on power exercises or heavy weights, you're tightening the muscle, and you can think of it as building a big house on really small stilts. Your joints aren't going to be strong. That's where you get, the torn rotator cuffs and all of the, all of the issues that we see and deal with all of the time.
And you're basically waiting to get hurt. With Pilates, with physical therapy, all of the things that work on that neutral core, you're proofing I tell people it's like health insurance. You're proofing your body because you're owning your movement. You're not just compensating to move. So Pilates, like, really, you can't cheat really in Pilates.
Yeah. And I love in Pilates, you normally start with your footwork, which you're lying back on a reformer, and you do a series of different foot motions, one of them being a squat position. But because you're lying back and you have the shoulder blocks to kind of help you adjust your posture in your upper body, it's also easier to find that neutral spine because it's really hard for people to do. And then if they're standing up and they're holding heavy weights, it's nearly impossible.
Literally. And it's intimidating too. And I feel like people go into that and they try it and they're like, this is way too hard. So then they just quit. So with Pilates, it's so hard, but it's doable hard. And the teacher is much more knowledgeable about the micro movements of the body because that's so important. And when you have big group classes and you're going crazy and everyone's moving quickly, it's hard to correct those little micro movements. So Pilates is very isolated. And do you do just one-on-one or do you do multiple?
Mostly one-on-one. Some of my clients will have 2 pieces of equipment, so I'll do, semi-privates.
Okay.
But I really like one-on-one. Whenever I started as just a client myself, I went and I took like a mega reformer class in town, and I remember leaving, and I was like, I feel injured. My knee hurts. This doesn't feel good. So then I met my mentor, and she was like, oh, you should come and try with me. And I loved the one-on-one aspect.
Yeah.
I continued with that. And then whenever I started studying Pilates and I wanted to get certified, I remember telling people, I'm only going to do privates or semi-privates. And everyone thought I was crazy. They're like, you're never going to be able to build a clientele like that. You have to go teach a group class and people will like you, and then they'll hire you for privates. And I was just like, it's not my energy to go and teach a group class. I'm very much one-on-one. I want to talk to you a lot about what's happening. I want to be able to specifically tell you what you need versus having 10 people in a room and trying to
navigate
everyone at once.
Yeah.
So I started working in her studio, and I had a few clients in the beginning. She would send me people when she would
Your
travel.
mentor?
I would train her clients, and through that, I just got busy word of mouth, and it worked out. But yeah, no one thought it was going to work out in the beginning. Everyone was like, you have to do group class, and I was resistant.
So same thing with me. I had a lot of my teachers that told me. So I just want people to know that also, where, if you're building a new avenue or walking down a path not a lot of people have walked down before, there is a lot of resistance against you. And I had so many people, oh, sweetie, you're never going to succeed. You'll never do that. You'll never do that. And it's not the case, because when you're passionate about something and you truly care about what you do, word of mouth, I'm 100% word of mouth too. Like, we both operate the same way. That will, it's nonstop referrals. And out of nowhere, you just get, referrals here and there just randomly because people know you and know what you're about. So I'm so happy that you led yourself down that path, because it's hard going against what people are saying,
It is. But, at the end of the day, it's your life and you have to be happy with it. You can't do something that's going to make everyone in your circle happy.
No.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I talk to my CEOs about this, where, they talk about how people don't want to have their own business because they're scared of failing. And I'm like, it's fear. It's fear of the unknown. We just decided, hey, like, this is what I truly want to do. And we took the risk. And that's very rare. So, and it's scary, but I love fear. I don't love fear. I explore fear because where there's fear, there's growth and there's some sort of ignorance there where I'm like, why am I doing that? Why am I scared? So let's explore that, learn about it, and then make it better. So you don't have to be scared of things. So I love that story. It's
just like with working out, there's a hard part of it.
Yes.
And you have to push through that to get better. And it's just like that in life as well.
True.
Like not everything's supposed to just be easy.
No.
You have to work for what's good.
Yes. And like it's so much more rewarding afterwards. And you're at this level now where you control every variable in your business and that quality stays with you. Because it gets watered down in bigger corporations. So you get to control the standards.
And it was really important to me with training to be with the right client because you spend so much time together. It is a relationship. So if you don't have a natural chemistry, it's really hard to keep that person motivated and showing up to sessions. And I felt like for me, doing privates and semi-privates via referral was the best way to find people that had the same type of energy that I had.
Yes. And there's already that barrier gone with resistance towards just anything. So explain a little bit about the different machines, and are the machines made for different movements? Are there different series, or are there, different machines for different body parts that you like to use?
So on all of the different pieces of equipment, you're supposed to be able to do all of the foundational Pilates movements. So most of my clients just have a reformer.
Okay.
I do have a few clients that have the trapeze table, or sometimes you'll hear it called a Cadillac. Those are the two types of equipment that I'm working with the most.
Got it.
But on all of the equipment, you should be able to do all of the movements.
Got it.
Yeah.
So there's specific, what are the foundational movements, if it's not too much to go into? So you can do all the foundational movements on there? Meaning like squatting, or are there specific
it's like
ones?
a whole series. It's like,
Got it.
Yeah, it'd be like a whole like yoga Shanga, it's like there's specific Pilates movements, and then you can do it on the mat. You can do it on all of the equipment.
Got it.
You have spring tension, but you also have the rope tension. So I like the rope movements more for getting people into the stretching. Springs, you can almost make feel like a gym workout. I think the springs give a different type of feedback versus the ropes. So, in Pilates, you're trying to control everything. You don't want to use momentum. So I may have someone on their back. We're doing breath work. We're doing a lot of rope work and it's stretching and lengthening. And then I'll have them come up and we may do some movements with the springs, and they start pulling, the springs start vibrating. And I'm like, hey, that is your feedback. You're moving too quickly. You're using your momentum. You're not focusing on the muscle lengthening and contracting.
And controlling it through the range of motion. And that's a subconscious thing for people. They just want to muscle through it, or, and it's usually compensating into some joint that's getting irritated enough to eventually break down over time.
Yeah.
And people don't realize that.
People will think, oh, she wants me to do 12 or 15 reps, and they'll try to do it as quick as they can. And I know you and I have talked about this before. For me, it's more about the time under tension. So I'd rather you give me less reps, slow, controlled, squeezing everything I want you to squeeze, breathing, versus 15 fast reps where the machine's going crazy. Yeah.
And it's not coming from your muscle force. It's coming from just creating it's basically compensation patterns and levers in joints versus the muscle doing the work. And then you get pain. And then you feel like crap.
Yeah, you're using the same muscles that you use to give yourself bad posture throughout the day.
Literally.
And we're trying to undo that.
Yes. And then you're making this about reinforcing that.
Yes.
And then you grab your phone afterwards and reinforce it even more.
Yeah.
But I've seen you text people where they might not be motivated, and you'll be like, hey, do this, or like you don't take people's shit basically.
Yeah.
And so I like that. And you get close enough to your people because it's personal, it's very intimate because it's meant to be. It's very focused. That's important.
Yes. So, I'm training them, but, we're talking about nutrition. We're talking about what's going on in their lives. So you develop a really deep relationship with people. And I try to touch on all aspects of it because, if your nutrition's not right, we're not really going to make progress here if your goal is fat loss. If you're stressed, you're going to be like this all day. And we need to undo that. You're also going to be holding your breath, which is going to do this.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's important for me to kind of know about the client. I don't want to be nosy, but once people know that they can trust you, they open up, and then you can give them a lot more advice.
Right. And you are trustworthy, so I feel like you create a safe place where people can be open to you. And so that's also so important because if someone feels vulnerable, they won't open up and do as well within your program, and I guarantee you've seen that before too.
Thank you. That's something I really like. I've really worked hard to achieve. I think whenever I started Pilates, I was going through a hard time in my life. My mom had passed away, and, the breath work and the gentle movement, it really helped heal me. And so I saw the benefit in Pilates for that aspect of my life. So I try to teach other people that.
And for people to understand, your body holds emotion. Everything's vibration and everything's frequency. And so if you have emotion that you've swallowed or you went through a trauma, you hold on to that emotion. I've had people just break down and start crying on the table with me. So when you let go of that tension through micro movements, so the safer the bones feel and the joints feel through the different range of motion, the more the brain's like, oh, I can let go. They're not going to hurt us with this crazy momentum and load. And so you can have people broke down and cried ever in a session.
I mean, they've cried about what's going on in their life, but not necessarily because of the exercise.
Yes.
But, they do feel safe with me. So we'll open up. And then, I just always say, let's work it out. Because if you don't, your body's going to hang on to it.
Yes. And that's really true. And I feel like it kind of seems like woo-woo, but it's not. And there's so much research on that. The nervous system, we're all electrical beings, and you sit there and you hold these stories and it's tension. And like you said, it creates your posture. And, people are like, is it my sleeping that's, making my neck hurt? I'm like, no, it's your muscles strangling your bones inside. And then once you're in that position, your nervous system just holds it. So that's interesting that you say that because people don't realize that. And then when you're working correctly, because your body is able to let go of that tension, every other system gets better and more efficient, whether it's lymph, it's circulation, it's all working more efficiently. And you can think clearer too.
Exactly. Yeah. Whenever I was starting Pilates, or before I had started Pilates and I was trying all of these classes in LA, it was, high intensity, a dark room, loud music. I remember I was going through hormonal issues at the time, and the doctor is like, your cortisol's through the roof. Is your job stressful? And I was like, yeah. They're like, is your personal life stressful? And I was losing my mom at the time. I'm like, yeah. And then he was like, what are your workouts like? My workouts were stressful. And so I started doing Pilates and just going on long walks. I quit everything else. And slowly I was able to calm my nervous system, and, my body and my mind changed.
And your systems actually change. So what happens is you're stuck in a sympathetic mode where your adrenal glands are going crazy. Like you said, your cortisol is going crazy. And when you don't get back down to parasympathetic through your breath work and through unwinding, then you never get to rest and digest. And then you're really out of balance because all your crazy adrenaline hormones are going nuts, but then you never get to the point where you can unwind. And so then you see your digestive system change. People will develop autoimmune disorders. So it's really important for people to correlate that connection because that's your health. And again, to have that intuition to be able to recognize that, especially while going through one of the most traumatic things in your life is unbelievable.
Thank you.
And how did you, like when you say it healed you, just so people understand, what did you feel? Like, how did you feel afterwards?
Well, I think when you're going through a trauma, it takes up this much space, and then you go to something to help yourself get through it, and it makes it a little bit smaller so that it's not so overwhelming, and that's how I felt going into Pilates. I would, have a hard day. I'd be talking to doctors and whatnot in the morning for my mom, and then I'd go have a session and, I'd kind of forget what was happening because I was so focused on what I was doing with my body. I was doing breath work that was calming me down. I was also trying to do moves that were complicated that took me out of my head at the same time. And it would just be, this hour break of all of that.
which is huge for
Mhm.
bringing you back to
Mhm.
homeostasis.
Mhm.
So if your system doesn't ever reset, you're just going and going, and you're
Mhm.
stuck in that rat race as far as just like nonstop stress,
Mhm.
and your organs will be impacted by that. And you digest your food in the parasympathetic mode. So when you're resting and digesting, and if you're never tapping into that, you don't absorb as many nutrients.
Mhm.
So you feel like you're deficient in things, you get more brain fog. And so I like for people to understand these stories and just these symptoms, because I feel a lot of people go through similar things, but they don't know what it is. And then when they talk to their doctors, it's always like the most,
Yeah.
detrimental thing. Like and they get this diagnosis, or they get
Mhm.
an anxiety or a depression diagnosis, and right away they're implementing synthetic pills, and it's just overloading the system even more. So,
Yeah, at the time my skin wasn't good, my hair was falling out, my stomach wasn't good, so I was going to a gastroenterologist. I was going to a dermatologist that was trying to put me on birth control and, all of the things for my skin. And, whenever it came to my hair, people are like, oh, it's probably just your hormones. It'll come back. Yeah. So I had a lot of physical symptoms.
and not a lot of answers too. Again, I
Hmm.
see this day in and day out where people feel scared and they feel lost because you think you're going to go to the doctor and just get an answer,
Yeah.
and like a well-rounded answer, not just like,
Yeah.
a blatant, well, let's see if it's this. And you kind of feel more lost in certain
Hmm.
situations. So it's important for, people to understand that, because hopefully they can relate to your story and understand
Hmm.
that, that's normal, and that's a
Hmm.
normal response that they're given, but it doesn't have to be
Hmm.
the end of your story. You can
Exactly.
empower yourself to change your health.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and how did you know not to go again? I'm like, how did you know not to go on? Like, you could just feel that it wasn't for
Well,
you.
I've tried it before,
Yeah.
but came off of it. My hair fell out. So I was like, clearly this was not good for me.
Right.
Um, but I've always sort of leaned towards a more natural lifestyle. I'm from the South. My grandparents lived on a farm and it was all about, veggies and, my family worked out. So I always lean towards a more healthy lifestyle. My nutrition probably got a lot better in that time because I always have been someone I'll eat the healthy things, but I like the unhealthy things at the same time. But I realized, the effect it was having on me. So whenever I was able to dial in my nutrition a bit more, that was in my skin and things got better. And I was like, oh, I don't need birth control for my skin.
Right. And the thing is, your gut is a representation, or your skin is a representation of your gut. So
Mhm.
if you aren't eating healthy, and I
Mhm.
see a lot of celebrity families where they are just people push these products to them. And I'm like, this has all these synthetic ingredients, and this is toxic for your body and your system. So, say
Mhm.
you're overloaded, your hormones are already going crazy, and now you're putting this synthetic garbage on top of your skin, and it's
Mhm.
just taking away from the oxygen you need and something natural that could be absorbed into your skin.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's just overloading the system even more.
Mhm.
But yeah, again, I think about people understanding from your perspective, and
Mhm.
'cause people, it clicks for people. They're like, wow, I didn't realize, because people think that your skin is related to topical things
Yeah.
only. And it's not, it's your gut. It's your body
Mhm.
trying to tell you something.
Yeah, exactly. So once I was able to dial my nutrition in, that got a lot better. But I did try birth control, so it was
Yeah.
trial and error for me. But it took a year to feel good after that. My cycle was messed up, my hair had fallen out. But if you if you do all of the basic things with nutrition, working out, focusing on, just living a happy, positive life, you'll come back into homeostasis and it'll all regulate.
Balance itself out. And, I like that because I'm very open to all things, but this is from my experience of what I've seen constantly happen is just we're just given a quick fix right away.
Mhm.
And I think it's important for people to recognize how to jump on board with helping themselves, because then that's how you become free with your health.
Mhm.
You're not reliant on the next pill,
Mhm.
because then there's a pill for that pill.
Mhm.
And you never truly get that understanding that you
Yeah.
were talking about earlier. It's so important for people to understand how their body works and feels.
Mhm.
It
Exactly.
connects them back to themselves.
Exactly.
So we have 2 questions that we ask everybody.
Okay.
If you could tell your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Okay, if I could tell my younger self one thing, it would be to be more forgiving and less reactive. I think when you're younger, you're quick to anger about the situations that are happening to you. And it's better just to be more empathetic to what everyone else is going through. And the only person you can change is yourself. So you can take you can take yourself out of a situation that isn't serving you versus reacting to it.
And thinking that it's always about, because I used to be like that, where I didn't understand what was happening. And I'm like, why is this person being mean to me? Or why are they being rude to me? Or taking what I'm saying the wrong way? But then realizing, just like you said, people are going through their own thing. And not everything is about you. And taking it personally really tears you down when it has nothing to do with you. So that's so important. I love that.
Exactly.
It's so. Did you used to do that too?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's maybe a part of growing up. You
Yeah.
think everything that happens to you is about you, and it's not.
No.
People have patterns that they've developed from their childhood, and they keep carrying it on into their adulthood, and it really doesn't have anything to do with you.
Oh, and sometimes people don't even recognize they're doing it.
Yeah.
I used to think everyone's trying to be malicious, but some people have not grown enough to recognize what things are basically making them impulsive to be reactive. You say one thing and they feel defensive or they feel insecure and they start attacking you. So it's just what they're going through. And the more you can just protect your energy, the better. It's
Yeah,
so
I think
important.
as you grow up, learning how to not be reactive and either communicating how you feel to someone without, you know,
Escalating the
escalating
situation.
everything,
Yeah.
or creating a boundary in a way that's not dramatic it's a flex.
It really is though.
Yeah.
And it's just because that's hard too for givers, because we give to everyone but
Yeah.
ourselves. And so for me, it's always just so people have tools to navigate their own lives. It's just remembering that you're coming from a place of love. Like you're always coming from a place of love.
Yeah.
And I am as well. And I feel like sometimes when we're around people that don't know themselves and they are being reactive, we can forget and react to whatever they're saying versus stepping back, take a deep breath, and remember you mean well. And it's loving yourself enough to not be involved in that situation or bring yourself to that level.
Exactly. It's you might not like what's happening to you, but you don't not every situation deserves a response. You can
No.
silently bow out and realize that some people aren't meant to be in your life. If you love someone and they're worth it, finding the way to communicate to someone, hey, like when you do this, it doesn't make me feel good. Um, because most people are just really scared to communicate how they feel. So if you can be the person that can say something to someone that they maybe don't want to hear in a really graceful way, you both learn and grow from it.
Yeah. And then you're stronger together. And then, there's even times when people don't even realize they're doing it, and you stepping back in a safe way and saying, hey, this is what you did, and not judging them, but just bringing awareness to it. It can change the way they act, and it for the better.
Yeah,
It's so
exactly.
good.
I don't think most people's intention is to hurt your feelings or whatnot, but it happens all the time, and most people are silent about it. So if you can find your nice way of letting people know that it doesn't feel good and they can redirect, then
Yes.
you get a lot of progress.
Yes. And taking emotions out of it has also helped me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Just you did this or you did that. No, just again, remember that you come from a place of love and
Mm-hmm.
you're trying to honor yourself too. So I'm not going to tolerate when you talk to me like that. So I'm going to step back until we can talk cordially or, whatever, whether it's business stuff or friend stuff. But that helps you get rid of the pattern of holding that energy. And like we were talking about earlier, where you swallow it and that's like those people that are quiet, and then they just explode and take everyone out. So it's so important to learn ways to be able to communicate. Communication is the biggest thing in life, I feel.
Yes, we do it all day long, but no one practices how to do it properly.
Right. Or just like the full scope.
Yeah, when it comes to harder issues.
Yes.
And
people just, again, bow out because they're scared. They bow out because they're scared and then avoid it. But it's always like you're like this too, where you take things head on and you want to challenge things and explore things why they are the way they are. So, okay. Next question. I said I changed this one last time. Let me know what you think. Basically, instead of the number one behavior change, which my engineer told me to do that, but I say the number one thing that helps you, and you're probably going to say Pilates, but the number one thing that helps you in your life to de-stress and to basically survive, like your number one modality, whether it's a recovery tool or your workout.
I would say it's Pilates, but routine.
Yeah.
I think having a routine is really important for me. Pilates being a part of it, but I'm someone, I like to wake up early, whether I'm working out or not. I try to focus on my nutrition every day. I definitely have a day or two that I might let myself have fun as far as nutrition. I think routine for me is the most beneficial.
And I feel like that's also part of the psychological stuff where you're giving yourself that win and you're setting a goal and then reaching it. And those little small wins are so important because they're you showing yourself that you can be trusted and it just gives you more and more confidence and more motivation to keep going. So
Exactly.
Next week is going to be amazing. It's the start. When you have nonstop things going on, you just you forget and you get in the spin wheel where you're just going and going. So it's important to step back and recognize that you need care too.
Yeah, that you're a part of it.
We're both really bad at that.
Yeah, I feel like we're caretakers.
Yes.
So.
We have some amazing patients and clients that also care about us because I've come across people that don't care about others. And so they're like, oh, this person's easily, a pushover. So let me take and take and take. Yeah. And so it's nice to be around people that appreciate who you are and also want to give you love.
Yeah. It's easier to give, or it's easier to give to them when they're also giving you things back.
Yeah. And they're loving people. You see them bring joy to other people in their lives and you contributed to that versus, if they're negative people and they're, challenging other people or hurting people in their lives, it's not as fulfilling.
Yeah.
So I love being around people that want to give love and spread love.
Yeah.
That's why
I love you.
Well, again, thank you for everything, for being here and just sharing your knowledge and just being who you are.
Thank you for having me.
Literally you touch everyone you come across. Not to sound perverted, but you really do. And you brighten the room as soon as you walk in.
Oh, thank you.
You feel the love that radiates from you. So keep being you because
thank you.
Really
the
changing
feeling
the world.
Is mutual.
Love it. Wouldn't be where I am without you in my life. That little love too, it gives you like a little hug to where you feel safe enough to keep going when you're going through a hard time. So I remember coming out here being lost and so many mean, crazy people that just want to get ahead by stomping people down. And you were never like that. And so I just feel like I'm so appreciative to have you in my life.
Thank you. Me too.
I'll let you know.
Love you.
Love you too. Thank you again to everyone for being here. Thank you especially to Jessie O'Hara for her time and just her philosophy and the love she brings to every single session. Again, I like to reiterate this just because I feel like it's a common theme with everything we do, how important it is to bring love and passion to what you do. And it's just, as you can see, it's life-changing. So whenever you're doubting yourself, just remember how powerful love is and how caring about people, whether it's in a relationship or in a business proposition or anything, once you step back and realize you're coming from good motivations, you can get so far. And maybe it's not that opportunity right there, but it's something that you're meant to learn so that you can grow even further in the future. So always trust yourself, believe in your intuition, and remember to come from a loving place, because that's how you get to where you should be. And it's so important to remember that path and to constantly keep striving for things that bring out the passion in you and the passion in others. So thank you again for being here. Remember to like and subscribe. If you have any questions or you want to reach out, feel free. Jessie O'Hara on Instagram and social media. Thank you again to her for being here. And thank you guys. See you next time.